Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Crypto Hipsters Curtain Calls. This is my compilations of season 6, 7, and 8 episodes for 3 or 4 or 5 4-minute clips brought to you as a summation and as a podcast. Looking back at some of my wonderful episodes from season 6, 7, and 8. I'm currently on season 9 on the Crypto Hipster podcast. And seasons 1 through 3, I brought you 45 books in the Crypto Hipsters Chronicle series. From seasons 4 and 5, I brought you 22 books from the Crypto Hipsters Mystical series. And all first 5 seasons are available on Amazon as full season compilations or as individual seasons. It's probably better to get the full season. It's a better value deal. Get the whole podcast in written form in a wonderful textbook on Amazon. Check it out. The first episode I brought you a couple days ago was Crypto Hipsters Curtain Calls episode 1 from my experience with a digital economist. And now we're going to talk about something very important. Episode 2 is called The Lost Message, how crypto is still about financial freedom and global socioeconomic betterment, other than just what many people have confused it as get rich quick. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not a casino scheme. At the end of the day, the intersection of technology, finance, and social, for the first time ever, is a innovative area. It's an area that can benefit humanity. And I've selected 4 clips from podcasts, 2 from season 6, 2 from season 8, that address this topic. You know, how crypto and blockchain is for the betterment of humanity and for social justice and freedom and for opportunities, not just getting rich quick, although people do that. And there's nothing against that. But the purpose of the intersection of these 3 areas, technology, finance, and social, gives many more opportunities than just money. So let's talk about them, right? My first clip is with Dr. K, Dr. Karl, who's the co-founder of the Quai network, and we discussed discovering new currency, a new financial freedom, and a new world. And that was from March 17, 2025, season 8. The next one also from season 8 is with my conversation with Violet Abtahi, who is the co-founder, actually the founder and the CEO of Platonic. And we talked about, on May 30, 2025, season 8, decentralization as a bridge to abundance. And then looking back a couple years, my third interviewee was Claire Ross Brown with CJLondon. We talked about girl talk, taking risks and creating timeless classics. She and I we collaborated on several shows with Concordium, a blockchain, when they came out with their first video series, and I helped her publish some of those. And that was from season 6. My conversation with her was from season 6 in January 2024. And then last but not least, Anjali Young is the co-founder of Collab.Land. We spoke in January 2024 during season 6 about building a global collaborative society. So I hope you enjoyed these clips. Have a listen, and all of these podcasts are available on the Crypto Hipster podcast show on Spotify, on YouTube. Take a look, have a listen. We'll see you at the end.
I mean, you just have to listen to the news every day of your life, right? And there's always an answer why you need it, right? I mean, fundamentally, you have the pure monetary problem, which is, right, we have taxes, which are arbitrary and pernicious, right? Most of us work as being nice indentured servants for 5 months of the year before we actually start making any money. And because they can arbitrarily print, they can inflate our purchasing power away, right? Eggs were like $10 a dozen the other day. pretty ridiculous. I think we've seen very pernicious sort of inflation in the last few years. Um, the other problem, though, is because of this sort of monopolistic relationship between the banks and the government to, create money, right? The Federal Reserve is owned by the private banks, but it's sort of given this monopolistic printing power by the government. Basically, they're in this, relationship that reinforces their own power, and it removes the power from the people, right? And then that power finds itself manifesting in more and more pernicious ways. If that's monitoring, if that's surveillance, if that's censorship, if eventually, right, everyone's kind of thinking. If you look at just current political policy, right, they try to use the economics of having that monopolistic power to favor certain groups, ideas, or technologies, right? Um, that's pretty obvious. Um, but the thing that's like more, I think, pernicious. The best example isn't actually originating from America, though we're not far off. Is in Canada, you had those trucker protests. Are you familiar with this?
Yep.
Right. So, just to give like some background, I think this was 2023. So this was like very late, sort of in sort of the COVID um, narrative, if you will. Um, the Canadian government wanted to mandate vaccines for truckers in Canada that like work alone in a truck. The truckers were like, "We don't like this," so they went to the Capitol. They parked their trucks. They peacefully petitioned their supposedly democratically elected government to allow them to have some degree of bodily autonomy. And the government decided that they were going to declare a national emergency. They were going to steal their vehicles, steal their businesses, steal the money out of their bank accounts, and freeze the bank accounts of anyone who donated money to those people who were peacefully petitioning their supposedly democratically elected government for bodily autonomy. Um, so like right there is a pretty Orwellian outcome that happened over something that ended up having a very low mortality rate in most of the healthy demographics. So I think right there, like if you're like if you're if you're somebody who's aware and independently thinking, I mean that's pretty terrifying in terms of what that is. But that is telling you why you need money independent of the state. You need money that they can't censor, that they can't control, so they can't just arbitrarily create a national emergency and sort of steal all of your money because you disagree with them. Um, right? It's kind of a predicate for us to remain uh, free, independent individuals in a digital society, I think is the statement. And there's a lot of evidence that if we don't create systems that are perfectly decentralized, that they can't control, they can't arbitrarily confiscate, that we're going to end up in an Orwellian panopticon, not as free individuals. So,
right, when we look at the human life and ourselves, the interesting thing about us is that we move through the space-time tunnel. Right, so time is the one currency that we move with in this realm, although it's relative and there's a lot of things that we can talk about on that realm. But the truth is, from the dawn of innovation, what we have tried to do is to get from point A to point B faster so that we can unlock more time for ourselves. From the innovation of the wheel to the rockets to, like how do we get from this point, physical point A to B sooner, to the FaceTime and the phones. How can I hear someone's voice faster? How can I connect with you sooner? To the internet, how can we get, a supply and demand faster together? How can we democratize data and information and without having to travel 5 days to a specific library to pull out a certain book to get access to a certain information, instantly get access, right? So innovation really is about breaking through space-time barriers and in more and more instant connections. But so what? I would say so that we have more time to connect, so that we have more time to take care of each other, so that we can have more time to love and not just connect to each other as human, but connect to nature, connect to all of life. And that is the part that we need to keep coming back to, because otherwise our technologies will become really soulless. So blockchain is amazing, artificial intelligence is amazing, the internet is amazing, biotech, healthcare. Our innovations are incredible, but all of them to serve us to live longer and more high quality lives and to be able to connect on a deeper level. That is really the most important thing from my perspective. And I would say when you refer to our illnesses, the core of our illnesses is disconnection, right? The illness of our century is loneliness, and loneliness stems from the lack of human connection. All of us long for that. No one wants to have all the resources in the world and live with trillions of dollars alone on a planet by themselves, right? We all prefer a warm cabin with a few people that we love and a beautiful story and some music and candlelight, because we thrive in human connection. That's the only way we can live, right? And from value to purpose, like that disconnection is not just from each other and from resources, but it's from our values, our purpose, our the love that we have for one another. And if we are innovating and we're building technologies without thinking about that why, then we have lost the perspective in so many different levels. So I would break this down to two sides on your question, right? Like one from a technology perspective and one from a human perspective.
Sure. So I think, so Girl Talk is one of the latest charities in Denmark that I am ambassador for. Otherwise, I've worked on the board of translated, let me think, children and young people in need, translated, for 10 years. And that was people that, or young kids, basically, and adults that were coming from families. They could be drug addicts, alcoholics. Some of them have no parents. They could be in a foster home. We had a lot of different organizations within that we were helping raise money for and helping these young people to further their lives in as positive a way as possible, and seeing that actually, despite coming from a dysfunctional background, that they can turn their lives around. And I think when we look at girls, and certainly with Girl Talk, what attracted me about that, I met the psychologist who started this organization about 17 years ago, and I really was inspired by what she'd done and really wanted to help with some of these young girls. And when you talk about coding, it's brilliant because we are in a day and age where our children definitely are growing up where they know they can be an engineer, they can be a coder. There's absolutely nothing that they cannot do that they want to do. And I think that that's a really important message. It's something that when I look at myself, I got one piece of advice that was just like gold for me, and that was, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And for me, that was, it was almost as though it shows you the power of your mind, because I feel as though as a child, if you are told certain things, they really go in. Some things just cement. And for me, that was one thing that did. So it's one thing that I like to pass on, for example, with Girl Talk. So if we have, in order to get more girls to code, how are we going to do that? We need to bring the awareness of what is that? That could be after school workshops, introducing coding to them to start with, because a lot of these young women don't even know what that is. And they often associate, for example, stocks and shares and investments as being very much something that is on the male side, not the female side. And I know today we incorporate, when I'm saying male, female, everybody. We want it to be something that everyone can do and that feels that they can do. It's just about the learning and about the education. So I think that today, the education that we have, it's up to us to really enhance that. And we have these charities that can help with that. Now with Girl Talk, we're looking more, we're helping young girls go through life. And because there is so much with the social media today, there's so much basically online. It's an anonymous platform where they can actually call and speak to somebody and actually type, you know, what it is that they're feeling, and they can hide behind the computer and feel safe to ask anything. And I think that that's really, really important. And again, the blockchain comes into that, because you have a lot of charities today. I've also worked with human trafficking organizations. Today, you also have blockchain that will help to govern some of the security of all of that, because with some charities, again, going back to due diligence, it's really important for me to know who are the founders of these charities, of these organizations, and when this money is collected, who is it going back to? What is the compliance that's been done here? And you know, everything for me really has to be transparent. And this is another area where blockchain will be a massive thing, I think, with chat.
Can token gating help? I mean, yes, like I said, like if you're willing to buy into a community, you're already showing a level of commitment, right? Because this is an attention economy. We all have millions of different things that we could be doing with our time and our limited time on Earth in our human existence. We need to start treating every moment of our life as precious. And so there's so much that we can do. And once we start taking ownership of that, and I think a lot of this comes from fear of death, right? Like everyone wants to believe they have unlimited time. And that's why they spend all this time infighting. Because it's like, if you have so precious time on earth in these moments of your life, why would you do that? So I think with crypto especially, it's like there's so many things you could invest in, so many places you can put your money. If you are putting your money into something, it's up to the community themselves to kind of guide what the tone is. And in this way, there has to be a commitment to, number one, mods and admins. Of course, you need to have them in place, but also bringing up people from the community that share the values of the community and elevating them. And so one of the things that I do with Collab.Land, when people, you know, projects come to me, brands come to me, what is some advice that I can give them? I tell them, number one, be consistent. Have a consistent content calendar, have consistent events, show your community that you're committed to them by committing to, on Mondays, we're doing this. On Wednesdays, we're doing this. On Fridays, we're doing this. On Saturdays, we're going to have the founders on and we're going to have an open AMA. We're going to do roundtables. Like, commit to your community if that's what if you want to start building confidence amongst your members, because that's so important. The projects themselves have to commit to having a responsibility and showing their community respect. That's where you're going to get respect back, is that you need to show respect first. So any community that's out there that is dealing with this type of negativity and FUD and have been broken, that's what I would say. You need to commit to your community first, top down. And once you do that, then you're going to start getting respect from your community bottom up. And the way to do that is to, when you quickly identify the people within your community that share your values, that are the helpful ones, that are the believers, and elevate them. Elevate the people within your communities that are showing you commitment, and elevate them to help with the culture of your community. But it's not going to happen on its own, and it's going to take commitment from the founders and the project teams first. And then there are going to be projects that don't do that. And if you're not going to do that, you're not going to get a commitment back. And so, and those communities are going to fall away and people are going to move to other communities. But if you are destroyed right now, if your community is destroyed, you need to look at yourself first. Leaders and founders have a huge responsibility to behave in a way that inspires others and to see in others the values that they want to spread across the whole community.
I hope you enjoyed episode 2 of the Crypto Hipsters Curtain Calls. It's available on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio. Also, wonderful episode 2. The lost message. Is it lost? How is crypto still about, global socioeconomic betterment? I always ask my listeners and my viewers, let me know your thoughts. I have 50 books on Let Me Know Your Thoughts. There are many books, about 6,000 to 8,000 words a piece, but I ask questions, about what's going on in the world. And what do you think? There's still new opportunity. Are there still new opportunities to discover new currency and financial freedom? Is the cypherpunk movement still alive? Should people who don't have any financial acumen be gambling with 100x, or are there better uses of the money to build something better for humanity? What is your risk taking? What in addition to money? What do you want to take a risk in life? And then, How do we collectively build a global collaborative society? You know, these are topics that are going to be made in the books, and I'm going to ask you your thoughts. Please share. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.